What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. This video is also brought to you by my music. Since we don't do any sponsorships, I'll go ahead and shill that. It is available under the name Aftersound anywhere you stream your music. So check it out, let me know what you think, and I appreciate the support. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the topic of this video, which is going to be a little bit out there, but come down into the rabbit hole with me, and let's see if we can find a way through this. Now, I just finished listening to the Claybo interview on the People's Guild, which is always fantastic. Love to hear, they put out great stuff. So shout out to People's Guild, shout out to Claybo. They definitely went down some rabbit holes, but there was one area in which it was interesting because they were talking about B-Jangles was talking about how. Well, actually, let me reframe that. Claybo was saying like the DAO really should not have anything to do with the game, right? And I know that we have proposals that have like asked for things in the game, and B-Jangles was kind of pushing back and saying, well, if the community votes for something, then it should be implemented in the game. Whereas Claybo was kind of pushing back and saying, well, it's the DAO doesn't have jurisdiction over that. Either way. That's not my point. Isn't to kind of insert myself into their conversation. It just inspired something. So if you want to go check out their full conversation, it was fantastic. I highly recommend you listen to the entire episode. But that conversation about players' voices, player votes, SPS stake weighted votes, and things like that got me thinking about something that I think could be quite valuable. For the team, and maybe the SPS, the polls that the PeakD team is putting together, and you can see that they're asking for support here, which they seem to be getting, which is awesome because the polls are fantastic. I made a separate video about that. Go check it out. I put one up. But the way that I'm viewing how we can gather community sentiment is very different. And would look something similar. So if you're not familiar with like U.S. politics, and don't get bogged down in the actual like bureaucracy and drama of the current U.S. politics, but just the design of it. And I'm specifically talking about Congress, right? Our legislative branch. Now we have two systems. So for people who are unaware, there's the House of Representatives and there is the Senate. Now, the House of Representatives, you get as many representatives as is necessary for the size of your state, right? So some have a ton of representatives, some have very few, maybe one or two. I don't know what the lowest amount is. On the flip side, you also have the Senate, so that each state also has equal representation. Each state has 2 senators. So in that way, there's like this, two different sections, one that is stake weighted and the other one that is not stake weighted. Everybody gets an equal vote in a sense, right? So that is the framework in which I'm using for this. Now, we already have stake weighted voting. That's pretty simple. You go through and you can get some kind, if you do a proposal today, it's all stake weighted. So the way that I was thinking through this is how can we add a little bit more context that would allow for people to know, like, hey, what do the players of the game think? And this is what I got from like the B-Jangles and Claybo thing, where it's just like, the players want to have a voice. And I hear this all the time from, the people on my channel too. Players want to have some kind of voice in the game, right? And I wonder if this would be an interesting way to do it. Now, that being said, I still don't think the DAO has any jurisdiction over anything that happens in the game, even though Matt frequently comes to the community and tries to ask, how does the community feel about X, Y, and Z? And then we'll put up a poll, or we'll put up either a poll or we'll put up a proposal, and everything is stake weighted. And I do think that there could be some instances where it would be helpful to show what does this look like from an individual player basis, right? So the way that I was thinking through this, because there would have to be some limitations, and I'm going to rely on you guys to take this idea, run with it, make it better. Because it's not like you could just do, okay, anybody who has an account and has paid for a spellbook gets a vote, right? Because there's a lot of accounts out there and somebody could just go buy a bunch of accounts, right? It'd be beneficial for the team for somebody to buy a bunch or open up a bunch of accounts and buy spellbooks. But that would be kind of gaming the system, right? We wouldn't really like that. So in a sense, I was thinking like there would have to be some kind of limitations to show that like this is a real person, or not even a real person, but a real account that is participating, right? So it can be in modern or it can be in wild. And one of the thresholds or the benchmarks is that it had to be hitting or it has to hit like a certain like amount of or games played per season, right? And if it has, over the last couple of seasons, has hit that benchmark, right, where it's playing like 70% of the energy, or it's playing like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's either a certain amount of games or a certain percentage of energy it's given every season. Like, it has to be something there to show that this is an active player or an active account. Now, the thing is, some of us, actually a lot of us, probably have alt accounts. And if you want to vote with your alt accounts, that's fine. The reason I'm okay with that is because even if you're one person and you have multiple alt accounts, you have to either have the cards to be competitive and play with those cards in Modern, or have the cards to be competitive, like own the cards, and pay the Wild Season Pass in Wild format. So you are contributing to the ecosystem and the game economy regardless, right? Even if you have multiple accounts, each of those accounts is a participating member and therefore should carry a single vote each. But the game threshold is what I was thinking, right? Again, are there some players who are just investors and they don't play the game? They don't even bot. They don't even bother. Should they get a vote? Should they get a voice? Maybe, but I don't know. It all depends on how we model this out so that it's like, maybe there should be something that's simply players, right? Like, instead of, especially for like game related things. And I guess this is what I'm trying to get to, because I do think that there can be disconnects from time to time. I don't know any off the top of my head. I'm sure people will go dig them up, which is great. But I'm sure that there can be disconnects many times between your average player, we'll call your average player, and then your large, stake weighted holder. And again, I'm not saying one is good or one is bad. I'm not trying to demonize one or the other. I'm just saying that they both have very different incentives, and they might be looking at the game. I mean, they definitely are looking at the game and the project in very different ways. And so therefore, if something comes in and it's like a game related item, and then you have a whale, right, who doesn't really play the game, in fact, doesn't play the game at all, but, just votes one way or another, that can influence things in a way that is detrimental then to the morale of the majority of the player base, right? Whereas if you are asking something that is game related, play related, and you ask it to the people who are actively participating in the game, that to me makes more sense, right? So if we are trying to move this game towards a more decentralized approach, we're not there yet, but we're actually much further along than I think people realize and give credit for. But if we are trying to move us along, I think having another way to show, to have your voice be heard, to have a vote in certain instances would be appropriate, right? I'm not saying to get rid of the stake weighted vote. I think that that's important, and especially for any, SPS voucher related things, like SPS stake weighted vote should be the law. You can look and see, okay, how do all the players feel about this? But that doesn't matter at the end of the day, right? That's more so just like color commentary on the side, where we can get, okay, like it helps us to better understand why the vote went a certain way. But still, it doesn't, like SPS stake weighted is the law. But there are other instances, and I'm not saying that this should be the case, where you can use that other system where it's like, okay, we want to change, I don't know, something random in game, or we want to ask players, how much would you spend on like a promo card, right? Again, simple things like that, or how much would you price, or whatever the case is. And again, maybe this doesn't even need to be built into the proposal system. This is what I'm saying. Like, maybe the polls from the Peak D team can do it. If we can, get a little bit of tweaking there. All I'm saying is that it could provide a lot of value to get feedback from the people who are grinding day in and day out, or have their bots grinding day in and day out. But either way, they are contributing to the ecosystem one way or another. They are participating members in the ranked play game. And that to me holds value, right? So therefore, your voice should be heard, especially on certain matters that are game related. And again, just having your voice heard doesn't necessarily mean that that is going to be the law. If all of a sudden, like, people vote one way, all the shrimp vote one way, and then, the whales vote a different way. But I think it would open up better conversations, open up pathways for better conversations, because it's like, okay, clearly we can see like a certain group of people are voting this way and a certain group of people are voting this way. How do we find some kind of middle ground? How do we find some kind of compromise? Or if there's no compromise to be had, then just have a better conversation to explain why one side is so far, to that side that they are. And hopefully there can be some understanding within that, right? Again, I'm just thinking like if this game is going to be built around consensus, we have to find better ways to communicate. And I think data is a good way to, again, not necessarily make decisions, but to have better conversations and better communication. So that's all I have for you guys in this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Curious to get your take on this. Otherwise, I'll catch you all in the next one and see you around the game. Take care.